The Global Positioning System, or the GPS, has been dominated by the United States for over a decade by the deployment of high-end satellites that revolutionize navigating. But the emergence of China with their very own worldwide network Beidou is now taking over. Keep watching as we'll tell you how China is jeopardizing the US GPS dominance. The United States has led the world in satellite navigation technology for many years. With more than 6 billion users worldwide, the US Global Positioning System, or GPS as most of us know it, was initially developed as a military instrument, but has since become an indispensable in civilian life. However, the United States is not the only nation possessing a global satellite navigation system. China launched the final satellite required to finish its own worldwide network, known as Beidou, in 2020. Since then, Beidou's popularity has progressively expanded and is now reportedly used by 1.1 billion people worldwide. According to experts, Beidou supports not only China's military aspirations, but also the nation's economic expansion and diplomatic clout. Despite the fact that COVID-19 has rendered many highways around the world car-free, China continues to assert its dominance in the navigation and digital mapping industries. There are big plans in the works. China is reported to have completed the construction of a network that competes with both Europe's and America's omnipresent global positioning system by launching the last leg of its Beidou navigation satellite system, or BDS for short. The expanding satellite network now stands to compete with the US version, which started as a military project in the 1970s, and has essentially had a monopoly in the navigation and mapping field so far, as the US puts up national security walls against Chinese companies and Beijing pushes ahead with self-sufficiency goals. There is potential for interoperability and eventual replacement because the systems are mostly interchangeable. While the European Union uses Galileo and Russia uses the GLONASS, China's own worldwide system, Beidou, which translates to Big Dipper in English, was completed in 2020 with the launch of the final satellite. Since then, Beidou's popularity has expanded and, as we mentioned earlier, is now reportedly used by 1.1 billion people worldwide. It is less important right now that Beijing is focused on advancing and building an ecosystem around its system than it is that it will eventually become what GPS has been for the rest of the world for decades. Used for everything from military targeting to unclogging traffic jams to finding you a nearby Indian restaurant. Other businesses that formerly produced radios and walkie-talkies are now leaders in the satellite communications industry. Costs have decreased as a result, making them more widely applicable in factories, farms, and logistics at a time when Beijing wants to increase production and efficiency to support growth. On some parameters, however, the most recent iteration of Beidou is superior, according to analysts at Jefferies Financial Group Incorporated. Its signals have an average accuracy of 0.41 meters compared to the GPS's 0.5 meters. China claims that all the major parts for the BDS-3 satellite are made locally to a 100% extent. It is estimated that the Chinese industrial complex may reap the true rewards of BDS. Stock prices have increased for domestic businesses that offer pertinent goods and services, such as Beijing's BD Star Navigation Co. and Guangzhou's Haige Communications Group Incorporated. Spending on research and development was between 10% and 15% of the company's total revenue over the previous 5 years. This year, the satellite navigation sector output value is anticipated to reach more than 400 billion yuan, which is about 57 billion US dollars. Currently, it is believed that Beidou, which has 56 satellites, is more advanced and offers higher precision and sophisticated coverage than its American and Russian adversaries, who each have 35 and 30 orbiters respectively. Regulators observed this week that chips that allow devices to access the navigation system are being produced in large quantities, with an output worth close to $50 billion in 2017. More than 100 nations in Africa, Eastern Europe, and Southeast Asia already use the system to some level, showing how widely it is being used. One example is the growing use of China's Space Silk Road for smart port and land charting by several Belt and Road participants in the automobile and equipment industries, as well as in cabs, trucks, and other vehicles at home. Can it go above and beyond is the real question though. Yes, but the American system is also moving forward. Government agencies, as well as defense firms like Raytheon Technologies Corporation and Lockheed Martin Corporation, are continuously investing billions of dollars in upgrades. However, there is now actual competition. A significant barrier to replacing GPS exists in the addition of technology and potential. In these increasingly protectionist times, relying on any location data source could be worrisome. Will the people accept a system administered by Beijing, no matter how precise it is, even if there are more frequent errors in GPS being detected? What do you viewers think? Of course, we ask, what has the US done in view of this emergence? With tensions between the US and China at an all-time high, China is pushing their battle to the stars by investing at least $9 billion to create a celestial navigation system and reduce its reliance on American-owned GPS. Smartphones, car navigation systems, the microchip in your dog's neck, and guided missiles all use location information transmitted by GPS satellites, which are all under US Air Force control. The Chinese leadership finds it very unsettling, so it is creating a replacement that a US security analyst describes as one of the biggest space programs the nation has ever launched. As part of President Xi Jinping's plan to establish China as a global leader in emerging technologies, the Beidou navigation system, which now serves China and its neighbors, will be available on a global scale. As a result, manufacturers of electronics, electric automobiles, and aircrafts adjust their goods to communicate with Beidou in order to continue doing business in the second largest economy. After the launch of at least 18 satellites this year alone, including 3 in this month, the assembly of new constellation is almost at a critical mass. Within a few years, China wants to add 11 more to the already existing 40 satellites. One component of China's ambitious efforts to challenge Western supremacy in aerospace is, of course, Beidou. State-owned firms are creating aircraft to take place in the Airbus SC and Boeing Co., while local entrepreneurs are creating rockets to compete with Elon Musk's Space Exploration Technologies Corporation and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin in the commercial launch market. The US-China Economy Security Review Commission's 2017 report had estimated that China would invest between $8.98 billion and $10.6 billion in Beidou by 2020, which had begun the development of it in the 1990s. Eventually, the system will be able to give positioning accuracy of no more than 1 meter or 3 feet using a ground support system. In contrast, GPS normally offers accuracy of less than 2.2 meters, which according to the commission can be increased to a few centimeters using augmentation systems. According to a prediction by the China Satellite Navigation Office, the system, which takes its name from the Chinese phrase for the Big Dipper star pattern, is at the center of a sector and has brought in more than 40 billion yuan in income in 2020. The US may be seriously impacted by Beidou's explosive growth. For starters, some analysts are concerned that China would feel more confident to target it now that it is no longer dependent on GPS. Due to the vulnerability of the current GPS system, it would be all too easy to spoof the GPS, disrupt its operations, and otherwise make it extremely difficult and dangerous to use even on the ground. The Beijing-based NavInfo, which provides BMW AG and Tesla Inc. with Beidou-linked chips, anticipates a yearly demand of 15 million such chips. For the Singaporean government, NavInfo began offering Beidou-enabled mapping and positioning services in September. Foreign businesses are integrating Beidou's compatibility into their products to help them compete with the emerging Chinese rivals. The largest manufacturer of smartphone chips, Qualcomm Inc., has supported Beidou for a long time, according to the San Diego-based corporation. These chipsets are also utilized in wearable technology and autos. According to state media, the majority of smartphones from the market leaders in terms of sales, Samsung's Electric Co., as well as those from regional rivals Huawei Technologies Co. and Xiaomi Corp. support Beidou in addition to GPS. China's best-selling brand is Huawei. The government wants all automotive navigation systems to be Beidou compatible within 2 years because China is also the world's largest auto market. According to the firm, network connectivity will now be possible in Volkswagen's AG vehicles, the market leader in passenger car sales. The technology has been promoted by the Chinese government as a tool for search and rescue operations. Currently, the greatest concern is that this Beidou system will be invaded. As a result, you'll notice a wave of people who suddenly have these systems' apps installed on their phones, which the Chinese can then use as a tracking, informational, and surveillance tool. And that is something that is either much worse or more risky than any kind of attack on our own system. And with that, dear folks, we come to the end of yet another video. If you like the content, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments and thoughts about China's emergence. But until next time, we'll see you later.